Today I'm going to be building a $420 per day DeFi portfolio with $100,000, and I'm going to be walking you through the exact steps that I take, so let's dive right in. Now that being said, we're going to be using Metrics Finance in this video, and I'm going to be looking strictly on Uniswap across these 5 networks right here: Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, and Base. The reason why I did choose those networks is because typically that's where I see high returns for liquidity pools right now, but also typically those networks have assets that I'm willing to hodl in my portfolio. Because at the end of the day, this is not just going to be an entire portfolio comprised of meme cryptocurrencies or anything along those lines. It's going to be targeted towards utility assets. So obviously the first step in this process is going to be to identify some of those different assets. So I'm going to go over to CoinGecko and start to just kind of list out the assets that I want to include in the portfolio. Obviously I have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. We could dive into Link and Uni. So let's just start with those and let's go to this little pool filter right here. We'll type in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. I did also skip over Toncoin. We could add that one in as well if we want to. So let's add that. Ton, Link, Uni, Matic. I'm just identifying different cryptocurrency assets that I'm personally already hodling in my wallet and I wouldn't mind taking on exposure to in a liquidity pool. There's also FET, which is the new Artificial Superintelligence Alliance token. And I just typed in a bunch of other assets right over here. So now that we've done that, we have 831 different pools. So there's one little issue right here. We are looking at pools that include Ethereum. Well, practically any pool has Ethereum in it. When we take Ethereum off, we go from 831 to 118. So we're just going to scratch that off the list for now, and then later on we could look at stuff like Ethereum to USDC if we wish to do so, if we need to include in the portfolio. But from here, it's time to start filtering down on these different pools. First things first, the fees APR. I'm looking at stuff that is higher than 10%, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to look at pools that have a decent APR, because I'm trying to get roughly 150% APR on my entire portfolio. I don't want to be including super low APR pools in my portfolio. But with that being said, yes, it's still going to be higher than 10%, but once I start to narrow down on the ranges, that 10% is easily going to go to 20%, 30%, because by using automations with tools like Aperture Finance, we are able to do tight ranges without having to worry about crazy divergence loss. We now have 87 different pools. Next thing I'm going to do is put the TVL higher than $500,000. That puts us at 58 different pools. And then when it comes to the volume to TVL ratio, I'm going to look at stuff that is higher than 8% basically, and that comes down to about 38 different pools. This is going to help me identify active liquidity pools, pools that have a lot of volume compared to their TVL, as well as they have a decent TVL above $500,000 and a decent fees APR. So now that we've done that process, we can start to narrow things down. Yet again, we see pools like Wrap Bitcoin to USDC doing 24%. Obviously that doesn't fit too good into our portfolio, but then later on we see Wrap Bitcoin to USDT doing 48%. So we'd obviously want to bookmark that one. And of course later on we can dive in to see what's going to have the highest possible return for us, but for now, let's just look at this. I see Ondo to Ethereum, so I'm going to favorite that as well. I see Ethereum to FET, also going to favorite that, and Sol to Ethereum, I'm going to favorite that. These once again aren't showing crazy returns, but at the same time, once we narrow down that range, we are going to be able to get some good returns. And then we're going to do Matic to USDC.E. Let's just favorite that as well. That's doing 115%. I see Ethereum to ATH token doing about 125% right there. I see Spec to Ethereum. This is one that I'm personally in right now. It's doing about 140% APR. There's ETH to TON, which is doing roughly 63%. We have Link to USDC.E over on the Polygon network doing about 190%. Another Matic to USDT doing 133%. We just keep on going down this list and see what we want to include in the portfolio. It seems like I got a good starting point, about 9 different pools. And remember, it's time to narrow these down because we want to look at the ones that are truly getting high returns. So now that we've kind of went through this list, we're going to head over to the simulate page. And when we're on the simulate page, we are going to open up pair. And once we open up pair, we're going to select the same exact parameters we selected over on Discover. So we'll look on Uniswap v3 across the Ethereum network, Arbitrum network, Optimism network, Polygon network, and Base network. Now, when it comes to pools like Wrap Bitcoin to USDT that are on every single one of these networks, that's exactly where pair comes into play, because we want to make sure that we're getting into the best possible liquidity pool, not just the highest TVL. We want to get the highest return here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check this little similar assets button, because that's not only going to show me Wrap Bitcoin to USDT, that's also going to show me Wrap Bitcoin to USDC, Wrap Bitcoin to DAI, basically any other derivatives of Bitcoin and any other derivatives of USD essentially are going to be displayed here. And then we can truly identify which opportunity is going to be the best return. Now, it seems like the one on the Ethereum network is going to be the best one that we can get, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that one on this list for now and start to narrow down these other ones. We have Matic to USDC.E, so let's go ahead and check that one over on pair. That seems to be the best and most consistent return for Matic, and then same exact thing for Link to USDC.E. The reason why is because they're mainly on Ethereum network and they're not really deployed on other networks. And typically when they are lower market cap assets, the majority of the liquidity is going to be allocated to one fee tier, and that's the case scenario for all of these because I have been deployed into a lot of these ones personally, but at the same time I've also also checked up on them frequently to see what type of returns we can get. Now, before I go any further, if you guys are really looking to take your Uniswap game to the next level, I just built out a Uniswap liquidity mining course. It teaches you everything you need to know in regards to Uniswap, how to find the best performing pools, how to select the ranges for those pools, as well as how to actually deploy, track, rebalance, and even mitigate divergence loss. Now, you're going to be getting access to my full Uniswap liquidity mining course, but you're also going to be getting access to 30 days of Metrics Pro for free, complimentary. Now, Metrics Pro is valued at $40 per month, so you're getting a lot of value here for only $49 for a limited period of time. And real quick, I believe in transparency, so the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to teach you exactly how you can open up your first couple pools, how you can get deployed into Uniswap, start earning some income so you can see proof of concept. And then after you've seen proof of concept and you're ready to scale your Uniswap portfolio into other ventures as well as other passive income streams, then you can come to me for my DeFi legacy program, where I'm going to help you build your own financial legacy through decentralized finance. Anyways, the link to my Uniswap liquidity mining course will be down below this video, so make sure to check that out if you are interested. But to dive back in, I want to start to narrow these down because 9 pools is going to be a lot to actually deploy into right off the bat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out this Sol to Ethereum pool. There's not much we can do with Sol over on Uniswap except this wormhole version of Sol, which basically means that it's wrapped. And it looks like at the moment somebody has a very tight range on this liquidity pool, causing us to only get a 20% APR, compared to if they didn't have that super tight range, we'd get roughly a 70% APR. So this person right here is taking up all the fees essentially. Anyways, that's about 20%, so I'm just going to knock that one off our list. It is unfortunate because Sol has been doing pretty well, but if we were open to expanding over to Radium, another DeFi platform or decentralized exchange, or even Orca, we would be able to get better returns on Sol to Ethereum, but also Sol Bitcoin, Sol USDC, and other assets like that. Anyways, I do want to include wrap Bitcoin to USDT in the portfolio, so I'm going to pull that up and start to find the range. Now, the reason why I want to include wrap Bitcoin to USDT in the portfolio is because it's going to be the backbone. It has a lot of liquidity. Bitcoin is obviously very blue chip, and this is going to be our blue chip position that prints a good return, not a super high return, but it allows us to have consistency and stability in our portfolio to mitigate market downturns. I'm going to put 72,000 as my top price, and then I'm going to put roughly 48,000 as my min price. That will allocate roughly 50-50 of each asset, so 50% USDT and 50% wrap Bitcoin, and that's showing roughly 152% APR. But remember, we always have to see how consistent that APR is going to be. I like to look at the volume history. Let's use the past 5 days of volume history, and when we do that, we cut out a huge day of volume, which puts us down at 130%. And then as you can see, there's more liquidity right over here to the right, so I'm going to go ahead and move the current price right over there, and that's showing a 27% APR. Right over here, about a 60% APR. So realistically, we'll probably get about a 60% APR. So the next thing I'm going to do is enter in my deposit amount, which I'm going to assume roughly $25,000 into this liquidity pool. As I mentioned, it's going to be the backbone of the portfolio. Let's just save it to the portfolio. We might not end up deploying into this liquidity pool, but if we do, it's there. And then after I save that to the portfolio, I'm going to knock it off my favorited pools list. I'm going to go and choose Matic to USDC and execute the same exact process. So let's assume roughly a $15,000 allocation right here, because Matic is not as blue chip as something like Bitcoin, but it looks like we get a substantially higher return over here on Matic. So let's put our max price at something along the lines of 50 cents, and then let's bring our min price up to something like 35 cents. It's going to get us a little bit more Matic, roughly 57%, and then 43% USDC, but we're showcasing roughly a 200% APR. Once again, we need to narrow that down, so let's use 5 days, and let's drag that current price to where there's basically more liquidity, which is showing a 92% APR. Still pretty good. Let's save it to the portfolio. Now I'm going to go ahead and run that exact same strategy on a ton of these other pairs, and I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this because it is a lengthy process. So for Ondo, I'm going to put my top range at 4,300. If we are a little bit more bullish on Ondo than we are Ethereum, we can do it at 4,250. So let's start with that, and then let's bring this down to something like 2,800. That gives us some more room for Ondo to perform just a little bit, and then we'll put that deposit amount at $10,000. We'll drag that up to peak of liquidity distribution, which is roughly 85% APR. Not too bad. And then we're going to go ahead and look at a calculation range of 5 days. That's an 80% APR. Let's save it to the portfolio. As far as FET goes, it looks like it hasn't been performing as well as Ethereum recently. So we're going to put the max price at 3,800, and then we're going to put the min price at 2,650. It's going to allow us to allocate a little bit more towards Ethereum. Yet again, I'm going to put a $10,000 deposit amount. And we're going to go ahead and zone in and do a 5-day calculation range and save that to our portfolio. For Ethereum to ATH, I'm going to use a range of 32,000 to 52,000. The reason why is because it's giving me a little bit more exposure to ATH, and I know it looks like short term there have been some runs for Ethereum compared to ATH, but I do think that this is going to do very, very solid as the bull market progresses. And yet again, we're going to go ahead and use a 5-day calculation range. With Ethereum to spec, I'm going to go ahead and do a $10,000 deposit yet again, and then I'm just going to go ahead and find the range and do something relatively tight, because remember, we can do automations on this, which will help bolster our overall return. Range like 380 on the bottom, and then roughly 520 on the top will allocate a little bit more money to spec. Let's save that to our portfolio. So with that being said, I've built out the entire portfolio. Now, I did notice a little bit of a trend with the altcoins like Ethereum to ATH, Ethereum to FET, and Ethereum to Ondo. Basically, in the past 30 days, the volume was more consistent than it was in the past 5 days. So I went ahead and adjusted these to a 30-day calculation range, because there's going to be ups and downs when it comes to volume. I also adjust these ranges. So with Ethereum to Ondo, the max is 4,000, min is 2815. With Ethereum to FET, min is 2750, max is 3650. And then Ethereum to ATH, we have a min of 32,000 and a max of 52,000. Also, I noticed that I have roughly $105,000 allocation, so it's time to adjust some of those allocations as well. I'm going to allocate roughly 15,000 to wrap Bitcoin to USDT, and the reason why is because we also have Matic to USDC, and we also have Link to USDC, and those seem to be doing a substantially higher return. So now we have 95,000. Well, I'm going to drop that Matic one down to 10,000, and the reason why is because Matic hasn't been doing too hot recently, but I still believe in it. So after adjusting those allocations across all these different pools, we have roughly $100,000 allocated. That's about 10% per month, which, don't get me wrong, is really, really good, but it's still generating roughly $320 per day, which is basically $100 less than our benchmark, which is the $420 per day mark, and that would be about 150% APR. So what we can do to actually get that APR up is start to dive into these ranges and start to use tighter ranges. And the reason why we would want to do that is so that we can use aperture automations to automatically rebalance our positions, which is going to allow us to stay in range because we're being rebalanced, but also it's going to allow us to collect a higher APR. So in terms of what I'm going to do with Link to USDC, I'm going to bring that up to a min price of 9. I'm going to put my max price at 12. That's going to bolster my overall return right here. So I'll save that to my portfolio and remove the old strategy. That gets us to 130% APR, so a good start. We can head over to wrap Bitcoin to USDT and do the same exact thing. This time I'm going to put 53,000 as my min price, and then as my max price, I'm going to put 71,000. I'm not going to adjust it too much, and then I'm going to save that to my portfolio and yet again remove the old position. Now we're at 135% APR, so let's dive into Ethereum to spec. Now the one that we don't want to go too tight on is going to be the Ethereum to spec position, because this is a relatively volatile position. But still, over the past 30 days, we have consistently stayed in range. So let's put our min price at something like 390, just slightly, ever so slightly rebalance a little bit, just like that. 390 to 510. This is going to take a little bit more of a bullish outlook on spec. And if we are a little bit more neutral on both the assets, we could do 395, and that weights us a little bit more towards Ethereum. So we'll save that to the portfolio, and then we will delete that old one out of the portfolio. Now we're sitting at 140% APR, very, very close to that benchmark. I'm going to do it with Ethereum to Toncoin next up. So let's go ahead and put that at roughly 470 or even 465 would suit. And then we're going to put our min price at something like 360 basically. And that's going to get us about 120% APR in this singular position. So we'll save it to the portfolio. Now we're at 143%, so we're starting to scrape up those nickels. Let's dive into Ethereum to ATH. This one definitely has a broad range that we can essentially tighten up. So let's do 36,000, and then let's do 51,000. That gets us about 50-50. If you want to wait a little bit more towards ATH token, we could do 50,000. That gets us 55%. Now we're at 148% APR, getting close to the $420 per day. Let's try it out with Ethereum to FET. We could put the top price here at 35.50, and then we could put that min price or keep it at 27.50. That gets us about 50-50 of each asset. Then we're going to do it with Ethereum to Ondo. We're going to put that max price at 3,900. I'm going to bring that min price to 28.50. That weights me a little bit more towards Ondo. And then let's dive into Matic to USDC, and we'll call it a day there once we end up rebalancing this. But this also has a relatively broad range. So let's do something like 0.48, 0.49 on the top probably, and then 0.36 over here on the bottom. And boom, just like that, we are now doing $435 per day above our benchmark, and that's about 159% APR. So it goes to show that you don't need to have any crazy assets in your portfolio, because these are all utility assets. They're not meme coins, but you can still get a super high APR. Now, might I add that this is a relatively risky approach. You need to be very, very active, and I'm talking about an hour per day managing your DeFi portfolio. And you also need the market to be going your way and make sure that your strategy is adapted for the current market circumstances. I would personally not take a super risky approach like this. My approach would be to get roughly 100% APR in this portfolio, have broader ranges, but also make sure that there isn't as much room for error. So that's the trade-off. I would be happy earning less money if it meant keeping more exposure to the upside for these specific assets. And that's ultimately because I think any 5-10x on an asset is going to be higher than any 150% APR that I can get in a short period of time. Now, this isn't a portfolio that I'm going to be deploying into. Now, full disclaimer, I do have a couple of these positions in my current portfolio. This was just kind of a mock portfolio so I could show you exactly how you can actually build out a portfolio just like this by having goals in mind. And it's all about diversification, but you don't want to be too diversified. And if you guys are looking to learn more about Uniswap liquidity mining, once again, I'm going to leave a link down below to my Uniswap liquidity mining course. Only $49, so make sure to check it out. And it includes a free month of Metrics Pro. I'll see you guys later. Drop a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, and peace out.